right, Tyler, welcome to the Founding AE podcast. I'm super excited to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Justin. I'm super excited.
Cool. Well, we had the opportunity to meet each other in person last week in San Francisco. You were in town, and you guys at GrowthX held a really cool breakfast event where founders and CXOs could get together and just chat growth. And I learned a lot about your growth, both you individually as a salesperson, but also GrowthX and what you're doing. And yeah, I've been watching from afar for a little while, I have to admit, in terms of the crazy growth that you guys have been experiencing over the last year. And I'm just so excited to have you on the podcast today so that we can see what a little bit behind the curtain, what's going on over there, how you guys are doing that. You know, you always see these it seems like Marcel, every time I see a post from it, it's like a new milestone of growth. So excited to hear what it's like to be part of that and some of the stuff that you're doing over there. But for those that maybe don't know you, don't know GrowthX a little bit, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. First, your background, your career, and how did you, I guess, your journey to becoming the founding AE at GrowthX.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, out of college, like I went into strategy consulting at PwC, and I feel like most people, it's like, I don't know what I want to do, but this is a good start. And consulting, it was like they advertised it as solving the world's problems. So I started there, and I was in an interesting group in San Francisco where we'd partner with a startup and use PwC's name to help them land enterprise clients and then implement their software. So I was like super deep on like the technical implementation side, but got exposure to the sales leaders at PwC and the startup that we were working with. InvestCloud is the name of the startup. And I quickly realized there's something in this startup world. And my dad was a salesman. My grandpa was a salesman. They were doing more oil and gas in Houston. But from there, like I jumped into an SDR role. And it was funny because like I used AngelList to find someone that went to my university. And I like probably undersold myself. I joined this startup that was in the crowdsourced QA space. And they're actually still around and doing well. Rainforest is the name. But what I love in hindsight is like I had to learn by outbounding to developers, which is like notoriously difficult. And then kind of like moved my way into an AE role at Segment when they got acquired by Twilio. That was another like really, learned by doing something hard moment. And then I guess, I just had fun doing that. So I joined as the founding AE at Air. Air was selling to creatives and marketers. And then I moved into an enterprise AE role at Saros that sells interactive content, an interactive content platform to marketers and creatives. And then GrowthX found me. And I think they were just attracted to like, that background in services, the experience selling to marketers, and then having done the founding AE role once before made sense for them. And when I dug deep into the opportunity, the more I researched, the more I was like, I better do everything I can to get this role because, yeah, as you mentioned, right, like it's just a killer opportunity, and I'm really grateful to be here.
Very cool. It's a cool journey, and yeah, what a place to land. I can imagine once you started unpacking and learning a little bit about GrowthX and what they're doing, but also the growth. I think a killer opportunity as a founding AE. So maybe again, for those that might not know GrowthX, tell us a little bit about the company, what you offer, who you serve, and then we can get a little bit into the growth that we've been talking about here.
Yeah, definitely. So GrowthX, right now we're an end-to-end partner, basically like an extension of a content team. We hesitate to say we're an agency because we have a lot of technology that powers our services. But we're for, companies who really want to invest in content, show up in AI answers, want to have a partner that's thinking from strategy all the way to publishing daily, right? We can even stage and publish and handle like the last mile execution. And then we'll do all of the AI visibility and monitoring. And so, you could try to build these complex workflows and different tools that are out there. Or you could partner with an agency that maybe takes one piece of this, or you can work with us where we're really taking like this services as software approach to be able to get to results a lot faster, right? Be able to combine the best of the workflows with SEO and content marketing experts, writers, so that your team, your internal, marketing resources, they could focus on pillar pieces like annual reports or case studies or, quarterly pieces. And we handle, all of the work that can help you build trust with your audience and like ultimately, own their attention as opposed to like renting it on paid channels.
Yeah, what a hot space too. I mean, I think everybody's trying to figure this out, right? AEO in particular, and how to. I think there's a huge shift. I've seen it in my own behavior, right? Of where I now go to ask questions about different products and different services, and I'm now less going to Google and more going to ChatGPT and other platforms. And everybody's trying to figure out how to create the content that surfaces in those answers. So I can definitely see the excitement around it. So the growth, right? I think when I was preparing for this, I had looked at a post that Marcel, your founder, CEO, had written that said like $11 million in a year. And then I think at the event, he might have said $13 million. It's like every time I see a new post or get an update, it's just more growth. You've got the fastest growing tech company or SaaS company, I think, on your roster in terms of Lovable and like all these big names, Ramp and so on. So maybe tell us a little bit about how does that happen? What's the magic behind or the secret sauce that's caused such growth in such a short period of time, beyond obviously like a very critical problem and high urgency problem that people are trying to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good question. And, you nailed it that we're solving the most important problem for most CMOs right
Yeah.
now. So that certainly helps. And, you know, it didn't happen overnight, but I think you have to give a lot of credit to Marcel. Like Marcel, at every stage in his career, has built organic content engines, has built a network. He had like over 1,000 experts contribute to a website that they made at HP. He hosted a conference during COVID that like Sam Altman spoke at when he was at Scale. And then he spent thousands of hours at DeepGram learning how to stitch together these AI workflows with his knowledge of all of those steps in the content creation process, figuring out the right content strategy, figuring out which topics to cover, assignments for those topics, briefs for those assignments, research for those briefs, fact checking for any articles that are drafted. And so, with the success he had in his career, he built a great network in San Francisco, and he got some early investors in GrowthX. The CTO at Ramp was like an early investor. The chief product officer at Webflow was an early investor. And he did these workshops before he even started GrowthX that showed how he was using the workflows to create, content that was higher quality than like people writing it and like driving results in terms of visibility and traffic much faster. And so because he was consistent, and did this every day and built in public, had success at different stops in his careers in his career as a marketing leader, when he took the leap to becoming a founder, we had all of this momentum behind us. We were early, in the process, like before other popular companies like Profound were even around. And so I think like our approach is to build in public, to build community, to try to give value, right? As opposed to looking for sales left and right. And it's unique to any experience I've had in my career, and I think that is why we've grown so fast. Like quite frankly, it's the community, the network, and the association that we have with, GrowthX does a lot of stuff that like helps me learn, that helps me get value out of content creation. Like they never try to sell me. And word gets around the Bay really quickly, and I think we appreciate all the intros that like VCs and marketing leaders have made on our behalf.
Yeah, I mean, the event that I went to is a perfect example of that, right? Like, went beautiful office space, great coffee, great conversation, no pitch, right? But I think everybody left being like, man, these guys know what they're doing in this space. And whether I'm looking for a solution right now or that, comes up in the near future, I know who's going to be top of mind on my list as a partner for this. And I think like the story that you told about Marcel is the classic well executed founder led sales, right? Like, first of all, like solving his own problem, right? And he's been doing that for decades now, right? I met Marcel 10 years ago when he was doing the HP stuff, right? So he's been deep, in that work for a long time. And now, finding AI as a solution to help him scale that, and then doing that himself, selling himself, right? To get to a point where bringing on a founding AE so that he can maybe unplug from the sales process and think about some other more strategic areas that the business can expand. It's the perfect sort of I think roadmap to bringing on a founding AE. I hear horror stories about people bringing on founding AEs too early, and before you even have customers, and it almost seems like he really got to that point where it's like, okay, now I just can't do this on my own all the time, and now let's bring in somebody who can execute. But on that, I think one of the things that founders struggle a lot with is that handoff, right? As I said, sometimes they just give the founding A the keys, and that everything that was in there, that sort of mojo that was successful in getting them to where they are today, gets lost, or they have a hard time releasing themselves from the process because they've owned it for so long or had so much success owning it, they don't want it to slip. When I chatted with Marcel, give you a little spotlight here, he was like, man, Tyler came on and he closed $3 million in business like super quickly. So tell me about that. What did that handoff look like? And it feels like, oh, the other thing he said is that I spend 5% of my time now on sales. Tyler's got it. So what did that process look like? You got in the door. What did that first month or so look like? And how did you manage what seems like such a seamless, well executed handoff process between founder and founding AE?
Yeah, definitely another good question. I think when I joined, right, Marcel was doing all the sales. And so I love how I got to immediately work side by side with him. Second week, I was flown out to San Francisco. I was in every sales meeting that Marcel was in. Didn't do too much talking, obviously, but I absorbed so much just seeing the way that he could context switch and seeing like what was relevant to his prep and what he wanted to uncover in the conversation and what like the next step of the sales process was, where we could use like AI workflows to do a deeper dive into the search opportunity specifically. And so the foundation was there and the nuance was captured by being in the room with him and picking his brain. And I think similar to what I said earlier, all that momentum that we had built, there's a lot of excitement and trust coming in to these sales conversations that I was having. And so I really just needed to build upon what Marcel was already doing, but not try to change the pitch too much, right? I needed to think through, how could this scale when we bring in a second AE? How can we qualify customers more deeply and get our ICP scoring to a place where sales and customer success are talking about these clients before we actually sign them up? We had, the privilege, right, of not being demand constrained and being in a situation where we're delivering services, which is AI workflows, but also like a lot of human review, a lot of human involvement. And so I had to be careful about like which clients we were working with, and I could only bring in so many, right, based on the service side of the business. I think what's great about what this unlocked for Marcel is, we're going to be launching products very soon. We have a vision to use our service experience to build a really informed product solution. and he gets to focus all of his time there and on delivering for, our biggest customers. And so, yeah, I can go deeper, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to monologue too much on this. I think they made it really easy by letting me just completely dive in, and because I'd been a founding AE before, and because one of the issues was like we were being too custom to try to get big logos. I think he could tell that I had a lot of intention and care behind like why we were, what these customers were getting, what their expectations were, who we wanted to work with, who our ICP was. And then, not dropping the ball, right? It makes it easy for them to trust you if we're hitting the number of kickoffs we want to hit each week.
Yeah. One thing that I remember you talking about when we met the other week was that this is kind of the most unique sales role that you've ever had, right? And I think that would go for most salespeople in that, generally
Yes.
speaking, especially you're the founding AE, it's like, okay, like start generating pipelines, start doing outbound. In this case, it sounds like you have a lot of inbound, more than maybe you can take, especially as a services business, right? Even though there is tech to scale this, so you definitely can handle more than I would say the average services agency business, right? But tell me a little bit more about that. What makes it so unique? And one thing in particular I want to hone in on is you talked about qualification and how important that is as part of your job, right? So how have you defined this role given the circumstances, right? And given the amount of inbound, and yeah, what are the most high leverage activities? And maybe you can even give us a little bit of like what your day looks like from a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, definitely. I think the cool thing about like a founding AE role is that you have the opportunity to define it. The obvious is you need to hit your targets, but then after that, it's sort of up to you. Sometimes a company will be more prescriptive, but there's a million things that need to be done. And the key is like having the initiative to start doing them. And so, I think here at GrowthX, how we were thinking about that was okay, first, I'm immediately getting thrown in the deep end and I need to make sure we win these logos and turn these prospects into customers. And then from there, it was okay. Well, how can I like refine the sales process, and how can I work cross functionally since we are experiencing, you know, more demand than we can serve, and need to ultimately like qualify the clients more deeply. And so, with the qualification process, a lot of it was like working with the people who had actually spent time serving our customers and knew about, the best case scenarios, the worst case scenarios. And then we were able to, because we don't want to say like we're not a fit for early stage or startups, right? But they do require a longer time horizon, and, you know, the understanding that like content isn't an overnight game, before we just jump into a partnership with them. And so, like, we have 3 stages of our ICP process that I created with our chief of staff. It's, first, like, what is the account DNA? What domain authority do they have? How much content are they publishing? How much funding have they raised? What's their growth trajectory? Because that shows us like how much we need to set expectations and get on the same page about the process and how long this takes and why we're going to target like longer tail keywords initially. The next stage was like the engagement with us and the excitement. So enthusiasm level, trust in our expertise, internal alignment, urgency, the budget authority. And then the last piece is really understanding in terms of all of our learnings, like what's the partnership fit. And so with the partnership fit, it's, do we have a single champion and person who can make decisions, or are we needing to align with like multiple stakeholders? Do they value organic content and have realistic time expectations, or, are they more so like open, but have heard about some of our best success stories and think we're going to perform magic tricks? And then it's like approval process, because that's sometimes our biggest bottleneck. If there's like legal reviews or medical reviews, if we call it like word babysitting, like if we're sort of missing the point, which is you need to publish to drive traffic. And as long as what we're writing about is at a high quality, the words shouldn't matter too much. And then there's also like the execution complexity. And so, we can work with technical clients, and we definitely do. But if they think day one we're going to come in and write like they're developers, that would obviously not be possible when you're building an engine. And so, day to day, I think it was a lot of sales calls. It was a lot of proactive trying to meet with people all across our delivery org who had gone through like the trials and tribulations of building something from zero. And then it was like working with Marcel to refine, okay, well, how can we make this more scalable, right? What do we want to be for every client? Since trying to do things custom from client to client, it doesn't help us build product. It doesn't help us get better, right, on like the core work streams that we're serving. And I think every day looks differently, and every day looks different, and you sort of have to embrace that as a founding AE. You can try to put some structure in. I definitely do, but it's more like best practices versus like my week Monday through Friday. It looks like XYZ.
Yeah, I call it in my mind organizing the chaos, right? It's like there's still going to be chaos. You just got to put it in some sort of order, right? And it's not going to be, fully buttoned up, but that's kind of the job, is just to kind of keep it under control, right? Um, I'm curious about when, if and when you pull Marcel in, right, these days, because I think that's another mistake that I see a lot of founding AEs and founders make, maybe, is once the founding AE has proven that they are the right hire and they're executing and they're doing their thing, sometimes the founder won't get involved, or like at points where it might be useful. And sometimes the founding AE might also feel like, oh man, like I don't want to pull the founder in because like I want to make sure that they know I got this. But there are definitely, I've found at least, I think it's one of the things that as a founding AE I did actually decently well was find those strategic moments to pull the founder in. Curious, like, is that something that you're doing? When do you do it, and how do you think about that in your mind?
Yeah, I would say that I had to like learn that even if I don't feel 100% prepared, that doesn't equate bring Marcel in, right?
Right.
Like what I really needed to bring Marcel in for was, if we start talking about custom work streams, I learned that's really important to them, and it's a great logo, right? Sometimes they benefit from having Marcel in. If
Yep.
it's competitive and I've
Yep.
had that initial conversation and I know this client has a high ICP score, it's someone we absolutely want to work with, no one's going to build confidence, better than the CEO in like a final kind of conversation. But the key was, it's easy to use it as a crutch and have a knee jerk reaction of, oh, I'm a little uncomfortable, or I don't know how to fully answer this question. Let me offer Marcel's time as like the next step to keep this going.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I've learned here is there's a lot of power in not having the appearance of like, I need your business, right? I
Right.
think prospects really pick up on that.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate because like that is the case, right? Where I can go in and I can be more relaxed. And if it doesn't work out, it's fine. However, I think like if we can have like this honest conversation about fit, if we can really just, if as a salesperson you can really just focus on like understanding like what is this person looking for, and articulating like what we do and helping them sort of get to the conclusion of if it makes sense or not, then there's a lot of situations where I don't need to bring Marcel in because we just agree like it's not the right fit, or we have the hard conversation around, this is what we do really well, here's why it's impactful. We're probably not the best fit to post on Reddit on your behalf or create case studies, right, that your customer and your product team are better suited to make. And so, yeah, I would say like right now I bring Marcel in very rare situations, and it's really just to make sure that we bring on the best clients with the right expectations, and that we can answer those deeper questions that they may have that I'm not the best technical expert, to be able to answer.
For sure. I think also at a certain stage in the sales process, especially if um, they're bringing in maybe their CMO or like maybe even the CEO sometimes, right? Depending on what company you are selling to, bringing in somebody from your side as well that kind of matches that. Somebody early in my career actually told me that like it's a really interesting strategy of like trying to level match, right? Even if you still continue to, and this happened to me, like you still carry the narrative in that meeting, having the like founder in there along with their founder or their CMO creates a nice sort of like partnership at the strategic level where like they know that whether things are really successful and they want to expand the partnership or something doesn't quite go as planned and they want to talk about it at a more senior level, they have that point of contact that they know they can reach out to and there's already been a connection made there, right? So it's interesting to think about it, but I 100% agree with you. It's like you got to be very specific and diligent about when you pull that trigger. I wanted to ask you about the tools you're using because obviously you guys are heavily using AI tools in your own delivery of your service, right? I'd be,
Yeah.
I assume that you have an interesting purview on AI tools and just tools in general. Have there been any beyond the standard ones that we think about CRMs and this and that that you pulled into your sales process, or does your toolkit still look more like the general stuff that all of us usually pull in the early days of selling?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think with so much inbound, there's been less need for me to
Yeah,
have a large sales tech stack, but some tools that we use in the sales process. We work with Understory, who is a great partner. They help us out with a lot of our, outbound outreach. It's mainly like event centric. But one thing that's been great that they use a lot is HeyReach, and HeyReach
yeah,
allows them to reach out at scale, across LinkedIn, and a lot of it, is like done on my behalf or Marcel's behalf. Nooks, I'm a huge fan of that tool. I think calling, this is a unique scenario with the inbound. There's no better channel, in my opinion, for sales than calling right now, and Nooks makes that as easy as possible. We use Clay because we need to connect like our data to different systems and pull in information from SEMrush around these accounts, that I'm in conversations with that connects to our ICP qualification. And in terms of using AI, we definitely do. I mean, no shocker, right? Um, I would say I'm mainly using Claude, to be honest.
oh,
And
cool.
we set up projects in Claude with a bunch of resources, instructions, and then there are prompts that are kind of multi steps that we go through. We do them for the main use cases. I would say prospect research before the first call, developing like an artifact for a conversation around the SEO and GEO opportunity, where we start getting more tactical against their competitors and content ideas that GrowthX can execute on. And then also with the sales handoff to CS, I'll use that to create a document that's like our handoff document that we have a meeting about. And I think the biggest impact for me is I used to religiously listen to calls before a next call and before follow-ups. And I would say I like rarely am listening to a call in full now because of the way that you can capture everything from a transcript in AI
Yeah.
and even ask the questions, and there are specific tools that do that. And just to kind of quickly connect back to GrowthX, right? Like that's a big part of our value prop is, software is, I don't want to say dying, but it's like, it's different where services can be used as software. And
Yeah.
what we're doing is like, we're taking the expertise around the specific workflow, and then we're trying to build like a system for knowledge work beyond just like content creation. But we see content as that atomic unit that's like so important to growth. And so we just approach things that way. And that's why the AI workflows that we've built, along with the experts in the loop, became, a really fast growing business, is because it was that perfect problem and that perfect founder to go out and solve it in a way that you can't do with, ChatGPT or Claude alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that you guys just launched a community, AI-led growth community. Um, Curious to, first of all, I think there are people listening to this that are thinking growth, right? So I'd be love for you to give us just a high level, like what is this community? What can people expect from it? Um, but also from a more maybe tactical perspective, where does it fit into your sales motion launching a community like this? Because I think there is this new wave of you actually spoke to it earlier, right? Is like this value first, right? Whether it be in-person gatherings or content or communities, right? And like workshops and things like that. But there is a opportunity to turn that into demand and revenue. So I would love to hear what it is, but also how you're thinking about, I don't want to say leveraging it because that feels like, uh, yeah, I don't know that like there's intentions behind it that I know you guys don't have because you do give a lot of great content for free. But like, how do you plan to engage with community members? And what do you think the impact of this is going to have on the demand that you're already seeing and maybe growing that?
Yeah, for sure. So it's AI-ledgrowth.com, and it's for anybody that wants to learn how to use AI and set up workflows to, create SEO and GEO content. Full stop, right? Anyone that wants to use AI to grow. Um, and I use it, I would say, I mean, shout out to Jason, our VP of growth, who set this up with Marcel, Jason Gong. And what's in it, is workshops. So Marcel just did a workshop with Lovable, did a workshop with Webflow. A lot of different parts of what we do, we deconstruct in those workshops. There's courses, so you can kind of go through step by step. There's the community element where you can ask all these questions. And I think the purpose for me is, one, we can't say yes to everyone, and we're maybe not the best fit for everyone right now. And so for those folks, I can point them to this community where they can make progress, right? Where they can stay connected to us in a way that's not a drip marketing campaign that they mark as spam or opt out of. And also I can learn, like, these are the people that we are in sales conversations with ultimately. And so if, there's different forums and they're asking about competitors or they're asking about like steps of the process that they need more help understanding, or even like insights that our team shares, like I can get better at doing my job. And so it's a great place for people to get value from GrowthX without having to pay very much at all. And it's a place for us to be able to keep these folks engaged so that when we launch our products in Q1, Q2, there's options for them as we expand our workflows. We can reach out to people who we may have had a sales conversation with 6 months ago, but they've been connected to GrowthX, since then because of this community. So I think like, the moral of the story is like, you've got to put yourself out there and you got to build some sort of brand through what you've done. And I think there's no better time to start than now, especially with AI. People are craving content like this, more authentic, more real. And because Marcel did all that hard work, it makes it allows for a community to make total sense, right? Because it's just an extension of what we've already been doing. But if you tried to start there, I think, you wouldn't experience results like what we can do because of what we did before growth. I mean, not what we did, what Marcel did before GrowthX even started.
Yeah, I think what I love about your approach in general at GrowthX is how you've sort of brought relationship building and trust building and credibility building back into the equation when it comes to sales and marketing, right? I feel like we all know as humans, right? Relationships take time, trust building takes time, credibility takes time. And suddenly when we put on our sales and marketing hats, it's like sending a bunch of stuff trying to convert immediately, right? And what you guys have proven is that um, giving value first and building that relationship and that trust over time pays off. You know what I mean? Like some people might think, well, if I keep giving all my content for free and if I'm like giving all my playbooks and stuff, I'll never get the deal. Well, take a look at GrowthX that's growing, 11 million, 13 million, and not doing a high pressure sales motion, but, taking the time to meet people, to engage with people, to give them valuable content so that when the time comes that they're looking for a solution, that trust and that credibility that usually would need to be built throughout the sales process already exists. And now we can get down to the meat of the conversation, which is, what are you trying to solve, and here's how we can help you solve it, right? So super cool to watch. I'm excited to continue watching you guys grow and all the stuff that you're launching. I know there's some really exciting products that you're launching in the near future. So if folks want to keep up to speed with the GrowthX story, with the Tyler story, and how you're doing over there, maybe want to connect with you either to learn more about GrowthX, learn about the AI-led growth community, or maybe there's something that you spoke about in terms of your strategy, your approach that somebody really wants to dig a little deeper into. Where's the best place for them to find you, to connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll see anything that's sent to Tyler at growthx.ai. More than welcome to connect on LinkedIn. AI-led growth community is a great place to go. If anyone sees this, I'll make sure you get a discount code so that it's like free or pennies on the dollar to be able to join. All those places are great, and I think just kind of like in closing on some of the stuff that you said here, what we're doing, it's similar to like working out, like if you do it every day, you see results. And it's similar to content. If you do it every day, you're going to see results. But if you are doing it expecting like a really quick win, or it's all just focused on what am I going to get from this, then it's just like the wrong mindset to have going in. And so I think with us, there's no longer like shortcutting with email and with LinkedIn. Like that's why people are, calling for like several hours a day. We took a similar approach just to building a business. And I think I'd encourage like anybody, don't be like comparing yourself to like Marcel and think it's impossible. Just like, do what you're doing, Justin, like make connections, do something that you think is different, that you have a unique perspective around, and you don't know where that will go, but that's sort of like the beauty in doing it, right? Is like the surprises that the universe will send back to you. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Totally. This has been fun, Tyler. Thanks so much for taking the time, sharing the story, and hope you have a great rest of your day and great rest of your year as well. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you, and shout out to all the founding AEs out there. Keep grinding.